Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast.
Hi, everyone. It's great to have you here with us today. We hope you're all doing well.
I'm Lucas,
And I'm Mariana.
and today we're going to talk about a topic that always gets a lot of attention during this time: Brazilian politics in an election year.
Exactly. It's a decisive moment when the whole country starts discussing the future, proposals, and possible directions.
And even people who don't usually follow politics end up being impacted somehow.
Yes, whether through campaigns, news, or even everyday conversations.
To start, Mariana, why do you think election years affect people so much?
Because it's about decision-making. And decisions create expectations. People start thinking, who's going to govern? What might change in my life?
That makes sense. And at the same time, it's also a period full of promises.
Yes, and that brings up an important point: knowing how to distinguish between promises and realistic proposals.
Good point. Not everything that is promised can actually be carried out.
Exactly. That's why it's important to analyze whether the candidate explains how they plan to achieve those goals.
Now, something that always comes up is polarization. Do you think it has increased in recent years?
Definitely. People have been positioning themselves more strongly, sometimes even more radically.
And that ends up creating conflicts, right?
Yes, arguments within families, among friends, and often without real dialogue.
Which is ironic because politics should be about debate.
Exactly. Disagreeing is part of it, but it should be done with respect.
Another interesting point is the role of the internet in all of this.
Today, the internet is practically the main campaign platform.
And anyone can influence others with a post.
Yes, which increases the responsibility of those who share information.
And also those who consume it, right?
Absolutely. You can't believe everything you see.
Speaking of information, do you think Brazilians are more informed today?
They definitely have more access to information, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are better informed.
Great distinction. Information is not the same as knowledge.
Exactly. You need to interpret, compare sources.
There's also the issue of understanding each political role.
That's fundamental. Many people still confuse what a city councilor, a congressman, or a senator actually does.
And that directly affects their choices.
Yes, because people might vote expecting something that position can't even deliver. Yes, because people might vote expecting something that position can't even deliver.
Now let's talk about the economy. Do election years influence it?
A lot. The market becomes more cautious. Investors wait for results.
And regular citizens feel it too.
Yes, whether through prices or uncertainty about the future.
An important question: is voting still seen as an obligation or as a tool for change?
I think it's slowly changing. More people are starting to understand the power of their vote.
That's essential for democracy to work.
And it's not just about voting, but also following up afterward.
Exactly, because many people vote and then forget about it.
And staying engaged is part of the process. Monitoring, questioning, understanding decisions.
There are tools for that nowadays, right?
Yes, transparency portals, politicians' social media.
Now getting more practical. How should someone choose a candidate?
First, analyze their background, then compare proposals.
And avoid voting based only on emotion.
Exactly. Emotion matters, but it shouldn't be the only factor.
And what about political debates? Are they still relevant?
Yes, but they've changed. Today, many people watch short clips instead of full debates.
Which can remove context.
Definitely, a short clip can distort what was actually said.
And speaking of distortion, are fake news still a big issue?
A very big issue, especially in election years.
How can people fight that?
By checking sources, being skeptical of sensational content, and not sharing without verifying.
Now, a deeper question: do you think Brazil is evolving politically?
I think so, but slowly. There's still a lot to improve.
In what sense?
Political education, respectful debate, and voter responsibility.
I like that point because in the end, politics reflects society.
Exactly. We can't expect change only from politicians.
Change also comes from the population.
And that starts with small actions: seeking information, having respectful conversations, thinking about the collective.
Thinking about the collective is essential.
Because political decisions affect everyone.
As we wrap up, Mariana, what advice would you give to voters?
Do your research, compare candidates, and don't make impulsive decisions.
Great advice. I would add, don't vote just thinking about the present, but also the future.
Perfect.
All right, everyone, we're coming to the end of today's episode.
We hope this conversation helped you reflect more on politics during an election year.
If you enjoyed it, share it with someone who should hear this.
And don't forget to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next episodes.
And now we want to hear from you. What's one English word or expression you love the most? Tell us in the comments.
And see you next time.